So, I don't know exactly why I started thinking of this, but I just did, I guess. And as you can see from the title, this Typh Talks podcast episode is going to be about rediscovering love for something. In this case, for me, it's Fortnite. Because I'll just be honest. My relationship with Fortnite as a game has been rather inconsistent. I started, I think it was either like the first week of chapter 5 or the last week of chapter 4. I remember everyone being excited about the shopping carts being added when I first started playing, but I don't remember Moisty Mire as a location on the map. So it may have just been that I never landed there before the update or something. But anyway, I started either last week or so of chapter 4 or first week of chapter 5. Or, sorry, season 4 or in season 5, not chapter. And I started playing with a lot of the different kids who were at the Boys and Girls Club at the time. Because, well, obviously I was there because I was in, 7th grade going to 8th grade? Or, wait, no, that was in between my 8th grade and 9th grade years. But yeah, I got sucked in very quickly. And then when I first got my Switch, I immediately downloaded it. And I had a shit ton of fun playing it. I had my duo at the time, and he was one of the people from the Boys and Girls Club. I just play with him from, like, every chance that I could get. I absolutely loved, it was like the last 2 weeks of Season 7 of Chapter 1 when I got it on my Switch. So, I absolutely loved playing through the last couple weeks of Season 7, even though I have a feeling that if I played through the entire thing, I would have hated it due to the planes and the Infinity Blade, because I'm one of those people that tends to absolutely despise seasons that have a ton of terribly balanced system or a ton of terribly balanced mechanics and items. But since I wasn't overexposed to it, I did enjoy it a lot. And most people who know me by this point know that seasons 8 and 9 of Chapter 1 are my two favorite seasons of the entire game. Even though, funnily enough, I only got one win across both of those seasons. And that win, quote unquote, was really just a glitch because it was the like limited time mode where everyone was just in a plane, and I got second in that match, but I somehow still got the victory umbrella, so it wasn't really a win. I only ever got one true win in the entirety of Chapter 1, and I think that was in like the very end of Season 4 if I started in the last week instead of in the first week of Chapter 5, but I think it was before Paradise Palms was a thing, and I just didn't remember Moisty Mire. But anyway, absolutely loved Chapter 1, Season 8, and Season 9. Some of the best moments of Fortnite for me. Some of the most fun that I've had playing the game. Enter Season X. Now, this season came out during the summer, or right before it, and it was, let's just be honest here, it's so notoriously bad for a reason. It was one of those seasons that had like a record high amount of people quitting the game because of it. And it's completely understandable why. It was so horrifically broken in every sense of the word. And that was also around the time that I was spending the summer at my grandparents' house, which doesn't have good internet. Or didn't when I was living there, rather, because I no longer speak to them after what my grandfather did. But, anyway, I skipped out on most of Season X, but then around the start of Chapter 2, Season 1, a lot of the friends that I had at school were talking about Fortnite, and I decided that I would try to get into playing it with them, and I did really well with them. I loved it. Granted, a lot of the wins were AI were wins against mostly AI lobbies, which thankfully I've gotten a lot better since then. But it was fun. I'm one of those people who Chapter 2 Season 1's length, it doesn't ruin it at all for me. Because there was just such a good sense of balance where nothing was super broken. The only kind of annoying thing at times would be nade stacking, but let me say this. I do think nades should have been vaulted earlier in competitive than they were. However, I don't think that they were nearly as big of an issue in public matches simply because people didn't stack them. People were wanting to carry different things in their inventories. And I think that Chapter 2 Season 1 was a super balanced season. The most annoying things about it really were RPGs being annoying and then headshot sniping being annoying, but headshot sniping is... Here's my take on it. Having a weapon that can one-shot to the head, I think in public matches, like most of what I was playing, it's a good thing. It's a really entertaining thing to do. It's fun. It takes skill to hit shots, even if it feels shitty when you're on the other end and you get headshot. So, yeah, fully understand that. In competitive, it gets way more broken because no matter how good someone's movement is, if someone has good enough aim, they're going to hit the shot no matter what. But for a public match player like myself, I enjoyed it. I like using snipers, even if I can hate when I get one-shot headshot. It's all part of snipers being in the game in general. And the RPG wasn't really too much of an issue unless you were a super high ground player. And most of the time, I was more of a low ground player, or I was playing on top of like natural high ground, like a mountain instead of built high ground. But yeah, I really enjoyed Chapter 2 Season 1. I still think it gets way too much hate. And that was also around the time that one of my friends, Scooter, ended up getting a PlayStation 4, which the next year he'd, ironically enough, get the 5. And I started playing a ton with him. He became more of like my primary duo partner. And lo and behold, Chapter 2 Season 2 comes out. I get both him and myself the Battle Pass. And he gets added to the regular rotation of the squads that the friend group would have. It was great. I fucking loved it. The first season that I was really active for, where my love started to shake a bit, was Chapter 2 Season 3. But looking back on it, I hated the season way too much. Mostly just because of me not being good with the charged shotgun. Because in that season, I was just so focused and tunnel visioned on hating that thing and not trying to get good with it. I'd use every excuse not to use it, which was just, yeah, it was awful on my part. I came to realize later in the chapter through using the charge, and specifically Chapter 2 Season 8, how good it was and how I was just shit. And that pretty much entirely flipped my perspective on Chapter 2 Season 3. Because other than that, and admittedly the caddy launcher being super broken, it was still a really fun season. Yeah, the water being everywhere throughout the first month or so, it was definitely annoying. There's no doubt about that. However, I don't think it ruined the season at all. And while it was annoying, at least it served a purpose. And it was something to shake it up, at least. I can appreciate that, even if it did get annoying at times. Then, Chapter 2 Season 4, holy shit, it's still, like, it's my... On a list of my favorite seasons, Chapter 2 Season 4 is still number 3. But it's just fucking perfect. I absolutely love it. And I think in pubs, it may be the perfect season if it wasn't for specifically the Iron Man Unibeam. But yeah, I fucking loved it. And around chapter 2, season 5 is when I I got my stuff taken away when I was living with my biological father because of grades, which, let me get this straight. That isn't the issue that I have with him. It's other stuff that he has done, which I've talked about one of the things in a different video, and I may address the rest. But the grounding that was perfectly reasonable. I had F's, and my depression was not a fucking excuse. But anyway, back into the discussion. I was grounded like midway throughout chapter 2, season 5. I did really enjoy the season still, but I didn't get to play a lot of it, unfortunately. And then the next season, chapter 2, season 6, by that time, I was back to living with my mother, and I think everyone knows how infamous of a season Primal is. It was just straight up terrible. That was the first time where I was like, okay, I have been active for this, and this fucking sucks. I hate this. This is a straight up terrible season. And that was one of the situations where pretty much everyone agreed with me. That was no hot take from me, shockingly. So, why did I keep playing if I hated that season? Well, mostly because a lot of my friends still did, and I mostly used it as a way to talk to them because I didn't live in Stockton anymore. I lived down in Springdale, Arkansas, where I still live to this day. And yeah, I just wanted a way to keep in contact with them mostly. So I grit my teeth and bared it. And then chapter 2, season 7, it's been getting a lot of love recently for some reason, but I've never been a fan of it. The UFOs were even more broken than the mechs. I fucking said what I said. You could just stay out of someone's render distance and spam shots down below. It was broken as fuck. The railgun, especially with the recon scanner, was incredibly broken as well. The fact that certain drop spots in every single game would just suck you up into the UFO and force you into a minigame midway through was also just infuriating as shit. Because sometimes I just want to fucking loot a location and leave, and I don't want to be sucked into a UFO. I just want to play the game fucking normally. And it would be at different locations every game, so you could just have your drop spot constantly being bombarded repeatedly out of pure chance. And it just, chapter 2, season 7 had a lot of broken shit. We know by this point, I'm not a fan of super unbalanced fucking metas. And then chapter 2, season 8 came along. I really liked it. A lot of people fucking hated it. A lot of people say it's one of the worst seasons of all time. It is not. Chapter 2, season 8 brought back a lot of the balance. The only real issues with the season were the Venom and Carnage mythics, which were unquestionably broken, but the rest of the season's loophole was pretty damn solid. There was a lot more loot added to the maps, to the map, just the one, due to the addition of crash sites, which gave, I think, like 150 more chests than there were in the prior season on the island. The crash sites also gave a lot more natural mobility, which is one thing that I like about a lot of the seasons that I enjoy. Because having that natural map mobility, it just makes games go by so much smoother and feel less boring because you can get places. It's much more entertaining that way. And then my love started to get shaky for the game again in Chapter 3, which I still to this day will say is the second worst chapter of Fortnite. Chapter 3 Season 1 is just straight up the most overrated season of all time, and Chapter 3 Season 2 is a close second. The metas and gameplay of those seasons were absolutely horrific. I can understand the fact that... Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I can understand the fact that some people enjoyed some things like the Battle Pass or the Spider-Man Mythics, but with the Battle Pass specifically, it has no effect on the actual gameplay. And with the Spider-Man Mythics in Chapter 3 Season 1 specifically, they were incredibly broken because of the hurt box shifting, which is something that we will see a lot of in future seasons. And then there's a lot of people talking about the mechanics that they added, like Chapter 3 Season 1 adding sliding, Chapter 3 Season 2 adding tactical sprint, mantling, zero build. I'm not going to deny the importance of those mechanics to Fortnite. What I am going to say, though, is that they do not make the season good. Just because a season has something revolutionary mechanic-wise to the game doesn't make it good. Because the overall gameplay of those seasons was just so horrific, with it being a constant fucking spray meta with no variation, and shit shotguns ruined everything. I don't care about, ooh, Spider-Man, ooh, Battle Path, when the core gameplay, the entire reason to play the game itself, is just constantly mind-numbingly infuriating, because it is so horrifically unbalanced to the point where I'm getting several kills and I'm like, okay, I don't even deserve the kills that I've been getting. These weapons are so skillless. You know it's bad when someone has to admit they didn't earn it. And they do that, and they end up admitting it a lot. Now, I do think it got better with Chapter 3 Season 3, and especially Chapter 3 Season 4. I know a lot of people are going to crucify me for that, but I legitimately think that Chapter 3 Season 4 was a really good season. I'm not going to deny how terrible the end of season event was, but the season itself, the gameplay that we got from it, was legitimately really good. The shotgun meta was I'm not going to say it was the best thing ever, or that it was the most balanced shotgun meta ever, but the prime shotgun felt good to use, and the ranger shotgun had a lot of risk to it, but it also had a lot of reward if you could hit your shots. The Evo Chrome shotgun was an interesting take on an item that I really liked, even if a lot of people didn't. Then with the ARs, the hammer returning from Chapter 3 Season 3 was a good decision, because it was just one of the most balanced ARs that we've had. The Evo Chrome AR was a really cool idea, where it would get an extra burst per level until you got to like 5 bursts. Like, it was really fun to play just throughout the season, and I think it gets too much hate. With early Chapter 4, specifically Chapter 4 Seasons 1 and 2, they were more seasons that I think I gave too much hate to. And with Chapter 4 Season 1, it was mostly because how broken the Excalibur rifle was in specifically zero builds, because it doesn't matter if it's projectile. If someone has good enough aim, they're going to hit their shots, as with the sniper. And just the constant bombardment of explosions, or even shooting the Excalibur rifle at your teammate as they shockwave hammer the other broken thing onto you, and you just can't do anything about it because their teammate who has the Excalibur point on them directly lands right by you as it explodes, and there's no fucking way that you could avoid it. But anyway, the Excalibur rifle just being broken, the shockwave hammer although it was fun to rotate with it, was also broken as all shit. But other than that, the meta wasn't terrible. The tactical pistol was one of the most balanced pistols we've ever seen. The twin mag SMG was a legitimately good endgame weapon. Even in comp we saw it, where that was a time where we only really saw SMGs if they were super broken, like back in chapter 3. The red IAR was a strong red dot without being as broken as a lot of what we had seen the prior chapter. The thunder shotgun was great, even though the Maven was and still is to this day absolute dog shit. And then chapter 4 season 2 definitely had its issues with the Havoc shotgun. The Mythic to this day, and then the other variants post or pre-nerf, because even the Gray could one-shot headshot when it first released if you weren't playing zero build with Overshield, which is just absolutely insane. And then the overclocked pulse rifle was also admittedly very broken. The slurps, yeah, golden slurp juices are insane, but overall, looking back on it, it wasn't nearly as bad as I gave it a hate for. And I kind of wish that I wasn't so harsh on the season. But especially because what we would see in Chapter 4, Season 3 with Wilds. Which, I'm going to try to cut the rest of this a bit shorter. Because I have already made a tier list video. And we're about to get into where I really start falling out of love with Fortnite big time. Chapter 4, Season 3. Return of a lot of what made Chapter 3, Seasons 1 and 2 so bad with the constant spray meta, but it also had a lot of just annoying items like the Wild Wasp jar, the kinetic boomerang being really fucking bad, the explosive repeater rifle just being annoying to deal with. And honestly, a lot of people hate the jungle biome, but I don't think that that's the best thing that the season did. So that was definitely another low point. It was one of the few times where I had the opportunity and money to buy the battle pass, but I chose not to because I disliked the season that much, and I knew I wasn't going to play it much because of that. Then with Chapter 4, Season 4, that brought me back in big. I loved the season. I loved playing Fortnite again, and it was probably one of my most grinded seasons that I enjoyed playing. And Chapter 5 season, I missed Season OG. Season OG was a really fun time for me where I got my main duo and pretty much the rest of our small friend group at the time back on for like the month that it was going on to just have fun and fucking hop on, play a few games. Season OG really brought back a lot of that love for many people, and I was one of them that didn't really need it brought back at the time. Chapter 5 Season 1, on the other hand, is another pick for one of the most overrated seasons of all time. Like, it was fine, but that's the big thing you'll see with a lot of Chapter 5. Like, there is some really bad things, and then it's mostly just amounting in seasons that are average. Like, and I think that's what really pulled me out of Fortnite for a while. Because even though I played a lot in Chapter 5, or I shouldn't say I played a lot throughout the entire chapter. Like, I played some in Chapter 5 Season 1, and I played some in Chapter 5 Season 2. It was mostly just to talk to one of my friends, and that was pretty much it. And then in Chapter 5 Season 3, it still is one of the worst experiences I've ever gone through. I unfortunately did end up grinding to level 200 and putting myself through that torture for the max battle pass skins because I didn't want to spend money on it. And that was also the season that my duo for almost 3 years at that point had quit because of just how terrible the season was. And that definitely also did a lot of damage to my enjoyment of the season because, at least in prior seasons I didn't enjoy, I still had someone to talk to about it. But thankfully, at least at this point, I had started playing with another group of people, being my now ex coworkers. And they've been the ones keeping me on pretty much since. Granted, Chapter 5, Season 3, I will not budge. I don't care what they say. Chapter 5, Season 3 was absolutely terrible. And Chapter 5, Season 4 was. I gave it too much credit back in the day. It's not a great season. It's not top 10 like I thought it was. But it was fine. Chapter 5 just really. Average season after average season after terrible season after average season, just. It sucked a lot of the life and the energy out of me, and I didn't have as much fun playing because my duo for several years retired from Fortnite. And then Chapter 6 came along. Chapter 6, in my opinion, is the most overhated chapter that we've seen. I do legitimately think that all 4 seasons of the chapter were good. They all did have their issues, yes, but at the end of the day, the gameplay itself was solid enough to where I think it stands out on its own 2 feet pretty damn well. There wasn't a single season in Chapter 5, or not Chapter 5, in Chapter 6, that I would rate below a 7 out of 10, which is something that you can't say for pretty much all chapters. Like, Chapter 1 had Season X, Chapter 2 had Primal, Chapter 3 had Flipped and Resistance, Chapter 4 had Wilds, Chapter 5 had Wrecked, Chapter 6 was the first one that didn't have any true stinkers, and while a lot of people disagree with that, that's just how I feel. As I said, there were definitely broken aspects of it, but it ended up being a damn good chapter, and it did indeed bring back a lot of the love that I had for the game. Like, I still think that Chapter 6 Season 2 is one of the best seasons we've gotten. Especially with, like, oh, I forgot to mention Chapter 2 Remix in between Chapter 6 and Chapter 5. But Chapter 2 Remix was kind of the start of it. It was a big improvement from Chapter 5 Season 4, and going into Chapter 6, it gave me a lot of excitement and hope for what they may do, which thankfully, as I've already discussed with Chapter 6, it ended up being delivered on in a way that was satisfactory, at least to me. And I think that Fortnite's continued the Chapter 6 success onto the Simpsons season and Chapter 7. Yes, Chapter 7 Season 1 was a bit long. It was the third longest season we've had so far, only behind Chapter 2 Seasons 1 and 2. And I honestly didn't mind. The red dot, or the red eye, the Deadeye AR was broken for a while, yes. Same with the Mark 7 when they brought it back. But after they would change the mechanics to where it's only hit scan until 100 meters, and once you hit 101 meters, it's projectile. That nerf was big enough to make a big difference in the enjoyability in the balance of scoped ARs, and I think it was a really good decision. Chapter 7 Season 2 ended up being another incredible season, and in my opinion, definitely top 10 of all time still. Chapter 7 Season 3 has mostly been good. My issues with it have mostly just been how the Maven and extending focus shotguns are terrible, and how the Chaos Reloader AR for a bit was super fucking broken. Now, though, the Chaos Reloader has actually been given a sizable nerf instead of just a slap on the wrist that people want to bitch about. And it's really refreshing to see Fortnite actually care when a weapon is broken and give it meaningful nerfs, not listening to the babies who want to say that it's unusable now. Do I think Fortnite can do better? Absolutely. We've seen extremely high highs, from the content that Epic has put out with seasons prior. However, for as rocky as a relationship as I've had with Fortnite, I'm glad that I can finally say again that I love Fortnite. And I think that reigniting that love has just made it a lot easier for me to acknowledge a lot of the things that this game has given me. It's given me friendships. It's given me experiences. It's given me a lot to rant about. It's given me ideas. And sometimes it's just helped me keep going to the next day. And honestly, as many rocky seasons as there have been, as many bad seasons as there have been, at the end of the day, Fortnite still has that charm. And there's just no game like it. So, thank you, Epic. You made an incredible game that can also be very shit in different seasons, but it's brought so many people together, and I'm glad to say that I have reignited my love for this game.